Stop me when this sounds familiar. You set the alarm with great intentions. You hit snooze 2, maybe 3 times. You scroll for 12, 15, 20 minutes before your feet even touch the floor. You go through the morning on autopilot. Brush your teeth, coffee, breakfast, commute. The same mental loop you've been running for months, years maybe. By 10 a.m., you're already counting down the days to the weekend. By Friday, you're too tired to enjoy it. By Sunday, the night dread is back. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, you catch yourself thinking, I used to care about things. I used to get excited. What happened to that person that I used to be? Here's what happened. You didn't lose yourself all at once. You lost yourself in increments, one small compromise at a time, one reasonable decision at a time, until one day you looked up and the life you were living felt like someone else's. Today, I'm going to give you 5 reasons that happened, and more importantly, 5 specific things that are keeping it locked in place right now. Not symptoms, causes, because you can't fix a cause by treating a symptom. And everything you've tried so far has been treating symptoms. Number 5 on this list is seriously crazy, and it's going to be the one that's hardest to hear because it's the one that looks the most like self-awareness, but it's actually the most sophisticated form of staying stuck that I've ever seen. And I'm going to get there. I want to start with number 1 because that's the foundation that everything else is built on. Hey everyone, I'm Jay, an NLP practitioner, neurotrauma therapy coach, and someone who's been in the exact place where you are at least twice. I've spent years with friends, family, and working with high-functioning professionals who are outwardly successful and inwardly numb. What I'm about to share is not theory, it's pattern recognition. And once you see these 5 things clearly, you'll understand why nothing has worked yet and what actually will. Reason number 1 that you went hollow. You optimized for approval instead of alignment. This one starts early. Most of us, especially the high achievers, the smart kids, the reliable ones, they learned very quickly that certain choices got rewarded. Good grades, sensible career path, relationships that made sense on paper, decisions that other people understood and approved of. And we got so good at making those decisions and choices that we stopped checking whether they were actually ours anymore. The degree you chose, the job you took, the version of yourself you present at work, at family dinners, on social media. How much of that was genuinely chosen? And how much of that was built to manage other people's perception of you? That's what I call living for the audience. And the insidious thing about it is that it doesn't feel like performance. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being a good person. It feels like not being selfish. But there's a cost. And the cost is that when you spend years optimizing for approval, you gradually lose the ability to hear your own signal. The internal voice that says, this is what I actually want, gets quieter and quieter. Till one day, you may not even realize it. I hope you do, but you can't hear it at all. That's not a character flaw. That's a predictable outcome of a decade of reasonable decisions made for the wrong reasons. That hollow feeling, it's what it sounds like when your own signal has gone quiet. Reason number 2, you've been treating the symptoms instead of the root. You felt flat, so you started a morning routine. You felt disconnected, so you downloaded a meditation app. You felt purposeless, so you bought a course on finding your passion. None of those are wrong inherently. I take courses all the time, right? But none of it stuck. Not because you're undisciplined, not because you're the problem, but because every single one of those interventions was aimed at the surface, at the behavior, while the root stayed completely untouched. The root is the identity, specifically the story you're running about who you are and what you're allowed to want. I'm someone who finishes what they start, except I keep stopping. I'm someone who has it all together, except I feel like I'm falling apart. I'm someone who should be grateful, except I'm not. Those contradictions are exhausting. And they're exhausting because you're trying to act differently while believing the same things about yourself. Behavior follows identity, always. You cannot build a new life on top of an unchanged story about who you are. Every program, every routine, every hack you've tried has been rearranging furniture in a room that needs a different foundation. That's why nothing is stuck. And that's why this time it needs to be different. Reasons 3 and 4 are the ones that are probably actively happening right now, today, in ways that you probably haven't even connected to this hollow feeling yet, because they don't look like problems. They look like coping. And that's exactly what makes them so effective at keeping you stuck. Reason 3, you've been using busyness as an anesthesia. Here's a question that I want you to sit with. When was the last time you were genuinely still? Not scrolling, not planning, not consuming content or running through your mental to-do list. Just still, just present with yourself. For most people in the hollow pattern, the answer is, I can't remember. There was a time that I couldn't remember for like a year that I'd sat still with myself, with my own thoughts, because I was avoiding them, stayed busy. It's not an accident. Busyness is honestly one of the most socially acceptable forms of avoidance that exists. Nobody questions it. And in fact, nobody tells you to slow down. And most people will admire you for it. And that busyness, what it's actually doing, underneath all the productivity, underneath that full calendar that never ends, underneath that constant motion, is preventing you from ever being quiet enough to feel the gap, to feel that heaviness. Because the gap is there, it exists. The distance between who you are and who you're performing, between what you want and what you've settled for, between the life that you're living and the one that actually fits. And you're never still. You never have to feel it. The problem is, you also never get to close it. Stillness isn't the enemy of productivity. It's the prerequisite to knowing what you actually want to produce. And until you're willing to sit there in the quiet, even for 10 minutes, the hollow pattern has nowhere to go. Reason number 4, you've been waiting to feel ready before you move. This one's subtle because it sounds like wisdom. It sounds like patience. It sounds like, hey, I'm just being careful. But here's what's actually happening. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings don't precede action. They follow it. You're waiting to feel motivated before you start, but motivation is a byproduct of momentum, not the other way around. You're waiting to feel clear before you commit, but clarity is a result of movement, not a prerequisite for it. You're waiting to feel like yourself again before you take that first step, but you find yourself by moving, not by waiting. The waiting, it feels responsible. It feels like you're being thoughtful, but what's actually happening, what you're actually doing is handing the pen to a future version of you that never arrives, because that version is also waiting. I learned this the hard way after Thailand. I mean, many times, but Thailand is the most recent one that comes to mind. I spent months waiting to feel ready to rebuild. I was waiting for the fog to lift. I was waiting for the certainty that the next thing wouldn't collapse too. The fog didn't lift first. I moved first. And the moving is what lifted the fog. One phone call I'd been avoiding. That's it. That was the first step. Massive plan, not waiting for things to fall into place. One phone call I'd been avoiding. Not a revelation, one phone call. What's your one phone call? Reason 5, the hardest one. Your self-awareness has become a substitute for change. This one is sneaky. I told you this one would sting, but stay with me. It's so sneaky. You know yourself well. You've done the reading. You understand your patterns. You can articulate exactly why you are the way that you are. The childhood stuff, the limiting beliefs, the fear of failure, the people pleasing, all of it. You know it. You understand it like the back of your hand. And that self-knowledge is real. It's valuable. It took work to get there. But here's the question I want you to ask yourself directly. Has knowing all that actually changed anything? Because there's a version of self-awareness that is genuinely transformative, where the insight leads to action, where the understanding creates movement and momentum. And there's another version that is the most sophisticated form of staying stuck that I have ever seen, where the insight becomes the destination, where the understanding of the pattern becomes a replacement for actually changing the pattern, where you can explain exactly why you're hollow, exactly why you feel how you feel, without ever doing a damn thing about it. Mark Manson calls it, I call it a little bit more PG, the insight trap. And it's particularly common in smart, very self-aware, high-functioning individuals, because the analysis feels like progress. It feels like you're working on it, but you're not working on it. You're thinking about working on it. And those are completely different things. The exit from the insight trap isn't more understanding. It's one small, imperfect, uncomfortable action today, not when you figured it all out, not waiting to feel right today. Because you've already figured out enough. You know so much. You've known something has to change for way longer than you want to admit. The question was never whether you understood it or not. The question is whether you're going to do something about it. So there you have it. 5 reasons you went hollow. 5 things keeping you locked in place right now. Optimizing for approval instead of alignment. Treating symptoms instead of the root. Using busyness as an anesthesia. Waiting to feel ready. And the crazy one, letting self-awareness become a substitute for change. If you recognized yourself in any or all 5 of these, good. I've been in all 5. That recognition is the beginning of something real. Here's what I want to leave you with. You didn't go hollow because you're weak or because there's something wrong with you. You didn't go hollow because you made bad choices. You went hollow because you're good at life. Good enough to build a version of it that works great on paper, that functions, that holds together, while the real version of you just got quieter and quieter underneath it all. The real version's still there. I've never met someone who's too far gone. I've met people who waited too long to start. I waited too long to start, and even they and I came back. The path back starts with one honest acknowledgement. I've been living someone else's version of my life, and I'm ready to start writing my own. That's it. That's the first step. That's the whole first step. Tell me in the comments, which of these 5 hit you the hardest? Because the next videos, we're going to keep finding these root causes. We're going to find what's making us hollow, and we're going to create action to start coming back and building that life that you love and you deserve, the life that you buried. Look, you've done the hardest part. You named it. Now let's do something about it.